Cool. Charles Campbell, hoopdfw.com, on the court, off the court podcast, a special episode. Rod Clark, University of Tennessee assistant. Rod, what's up, man?
What's up? What's up, man? Always good to talk to you, bro. You know that.
Yeah, we were talking about you on the podcast. Well, not the podcast, the live show on Monday. Me, Brandon, and Ani, we do a live broadcast and we'll break it down Thanksgiving Hoop Fest. And we were talking about how you just seemed like you were at home. Like a lot of people don't know how much time you spent in Dallas, but
Yeah,
you being in the gym was like you were seeing old friends again. And it was just like, it was good to have you in the gym because like Rod's back,
yeah.
like
Right.
Rod's home. He's back. Even though you're not from Dallas,
Right.
but it was like Rod's home. He's back, and so it was good to see you, man. And we are proud of your success. But before we get into all of that, talk
So,
about your basketball journey. How did you find? Well, better yet, how did the game of basketball find you?
yeah, man. Actually, I come from a family of some like deep basketball roots, but
Hmm.
at the same time, my dad was a football player. My mom, she played high school volleyball, so she probably, she wasn't a big time athlete like that. But my dad, he played college football at University of Central Missouri. He was a D2 All American, so he's a really good
Hmm.
player.
Yeah.
Um, which is why my build is kind of how it is. I was always
I
like,
was just about to say that.
yeah,
I was just about to say that. You're a point guard built like a linebacker, running back.
exactly, exactly. I built just like my pop. He's built just like this. So I got the exact same body almost.
Yeah.
But I always, I was a basketball, baseball guy growing up. I
Hmm.
played football for fun. I liked it, but I actually had a really bad allergy to like mold and pollen.
Oh
Um,
wow.
So getting on the grass, it just didn't go together.
Yeah.
So and people are like, "Oh, but you play baseball?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was in the infield, ain't no grass." So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
cool. So I was always basketball, baseball. But a lot of people don't know my uncle, Maurice King, who he passed away some years ago, but he was the first ever African American starter at the University of Kansas. Um,
Mm.
from
Okay.
Kansas City, Missouri. So he went there, was the first starter to ever play for Kansas men's basketball for Fog Allen. And the next year, his roommate and new teammate was Will Chamberlain. So
Wow.
that's
That's crazy.
yeah, that's how deep my basketball was going. My uncle actually played in the national championship game in 1957 against North Carolina. Um,
Wow.
he was drafted to the Boston Celtics. And one of those, the draft back then was like really late. So I think he was like a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Played a year with the Celtics, then went on to the ABA, played for the Kansas City Steers, won a championship. But is, a hero in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, was a hero for me. And growing up, he was kind of one of those guys that kind of put a lot of love for the game into me because you have family members that do things like that. You kind of aspire and look at that like you're a rock star.
Yeah.
Obviously, I got to be there with him firsthand growing up, and you know sharing the love for the game. So that was big for me. My mom was huge in just pushing me to, if you're gonna do it, be good at it. So she never held me back when it came to, me going and playing for teams or going outside and being out late nights and, playing with my friends till the street lights came on, going out, hooping. I was telling one of our coaches the other day, I was like, man, I know I didn't got soft because this weather is bothering me. And when I was a kid in Kansas City, around this time of year, I was still outside playing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was talking about how the basketball, because it was so cold, it would be so hard, and
Mm-hmm.
your hands get ashy and it's cracking your fingers and they
Yep.
bleeding. But I was just playing because I just love to play,
Yeah.
and I always have. So, my love for the game was always just kind of naturally something that I fell in love with, and then I had other people near me and around me that pushed me to want to kind of strive in the game.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was just a natural love that I've always had. So it's been great.
So playing career wise, you played college basketball. You played high school. Where'd you play it in college? I mean, I know, but tell the people.
Yeah, I played at Neosho County Community College my freshman year. Transferred to Neosho County's in Kansas, obviously in the Jayhawk Conference. I transferred to Redlands Community College for my sophomore year in Oklahoma, and then I finished up my 4 year at NAIA school called Lindsey Wilson College. That was
Yeah.
a top 10 program in NAIA basketball at the time. So I finished out there in Kentucky. Had a lot of great relationships out there. Had fun playing there. Graduated, and while I was in college, my sister had already moved to Dallas, and then my mother moved to Dallas. Excuse me, my mother moved to Dallas while I was in college after or doing my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So it was natural for me that when I graduated, I wasn't going back to Kansas City. I just moved to Dallas with my mom and sisters who I grew up with. I was really our little three. So I went back to Dallas and just kind of started my life there.
You know, I want to touch on this real quick because I literally just had a conversation with Coffeeville Junior College, and you guys are famous right now. I mean, Tennessee basketball is famous, but you guys are famous right now for Dalton Connect, and he went the junior college route. You went the junior college route. What what is junior college basketball like? What can you let the people in on as far as playing JUCO, the maturation, the development, and how do colleges still feel about junior college basketball players?
Yeah, it's changed from when I played. The talent pool is a lot smaller now, just because
Hmm.
you got prep schools, and you got people that are prop guys, and it's different. And then the view on junior college is a lot more skewed than it was back then. Like junior college wasn't necessarily seen as a bad thing.
Yeah,
I was coming out of now people look down upon it, and then nobody wants to burn their eligibility at the junior college a lot of times. So it's a little bit different, but it's the same as far as the step that you take in your process at a junior college. Man, it's a tough step. Like it's humble beginnings. You got to
yeah,
grind. You really got to work, and you're kind of in a big pool of players that are all working for a small amount of spots, right?
yeah,
But everything you do in life is like that. You know what I mean? Junior college doesn't have the resources that a lot of, obviously high majors and even a lot of D2 schools have. You're eating a lot of pizza. You're traveling in 15 passenger vans. Obviously your living quarters usually aren't very great.
yeah,
The amount of money that you receive during the process is extremely low. Um, but it's kind of what you get from being in the trenches in junior college is something that you can always appreciate when you get done with it, because it's a lot of adversity that you face in junior college basketball. You find to play against a lot of really good players that have always been undervalued and
yeah,
are continuously undervalued. And you also, some guys like myself, you find yourself within junior college basketball as
mm,
well, because some guys develop a little bit slower than others. And
yeah,
then some obviously use junior college basketball to find a new part of their game or a new confidence in their game playing against older players. So it was great for me. It kind of helped because my mentality was always as like a grinder and a worker, and I was a pretty tough kid. Um, but I was a qualifier in junior college, so I didn't necessarily have to go, but I
yeah,
wanted to go because I appreciated the Jayhawk conference growing up right near it in Kansas City. It was a lot of really good players that come out of Kansas City to play in the Jayhawk conference.
yeah,
At the time, it was 4 out of state spots. I'm from Missouri. I was going to play in Kansas. It's not far apart. Obviously, people that know Kansas and Missouri, the state line is right
right,
there. Growing up in Kansas City, you drive to Kansas like it's nothing. It's a 10-minute drive.
yeah,
So I was considered out of stater. So I had to fight to play as a freshman.
wow,
4 spots on a 12-man team.
yeah,
So, you got, and then, it's the Jayhawk conference. So you're getting guys, some high level dudes. Like, we had a kid, Chris Patton, on my team that was from Australia, a high level player, went to UC Riverside, became one of the school's top 5 all time scorers. Bryson White, he was from Kansas, but he went on to be all league dude and went to Northwestern State University, had a good career, went to the NCAA tournament. Um, we had a couple of kids that really good players that went on and had good careers, but it was a competitive environment,
yeah,
and it really showed me a lot about myself as far as my competitive spirit.
mm.
I felt like I already had it, but when you get there, it's tested every day. And I think a lot of kids nowadays, I don't know if they're necessarily cut like that.
They don't want it. They don't want. I know you, the coach. You gotta be. I can say it. They don't want it.
Yeah,
they
I
don't. They don't
mean,
want to be tested. They don't want to be tried. They don't want to. They want everything handed to them.
yeah, for sure. And we're in now, everything. I think now every kid feels like they should be given or gifted something.
Yeah.
So you find the kids that don't think like that and they kind of come
Mhm.
from a gritty mentality of fighting through adversity. Those are the guys that you usually want to bet on, and those are the guys that have had success in a lot of cases in college basketball. We have a few on our team.
Was
So
Dalton Connect like that?
1,000%. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, during the recruiting process, that was a big way that we connected with him um, as a staff for sure. But me and him from that standpoint of being junior college guys, because it's like a fraternity, man. Like
Yeah.
you see guys putting hashtag JUCO product, like that's real because dudes
Yeah.
know like you come from junior college. It sounds bad. It's a terrible analogy, but it honestly is like this. It's like, man, dudes that go to prison and they get out and they look at each other like, yeah, you've been through something. Man.
You
Like, wow.
made it.
You know what I mean? Like, you a made man, okay. And it's terrible, but it's the equivalent, man. Like, I remember Dalton telling me after he got here, he was like, you know why I really mess with you, Rod? I was like, what's up? He was like, you were probably the only coach that called me that actually knew where my junior college was.
Wow.
And you know what? I only knew because two dudes that I grew up with playing against went to the
Yeah.
same junior college and played there.
Oh wow. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I went to Northeastern Junior. I'm like, man, in Sterling, Colorado. Yeah, man, I know that school. Da, 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 da. I was naming stuff out, and yeah, I played with my man I grew up with. Which one? He was like, that's the dude on the wall here. I'm like, yeah, that's my man.
Yeah.
And the people that know Dalton, he keeps this wall up when he first meets you. He's very like cut and dry, one word answer. He's a dude that kind of like fills people out.
Yeah.
And automatically, when I said that, it was like, and everything
Right.
was it was just very natural after that. So, like I said, man, it's a fraternity that guys appreciate. And you look at other guys that went through junior college, and it's kind of like a brotherhood that you fall into, and you get a lot of respect for what you've gone through or what you've or the success that you've been able to sustain from going through that.
Yeah. It's a real challenge. I mean, Netflix has kind of made some money on it with
Definitely,
the series. But no, it's definitely. I honestly, I was talking to one of my childhood buddies the other day. We were in the gym, and I was like, man, I wish I didn't go Division 3. I wish I would have went the junior college route. And I think I had a lot of maturing I had to do as a young man growing up, and I just think that would have been better for me. But no, I mean, look at where Dalton is now. My goodness.
crazy story.
But so when I met you, you came to Dallas. I was early in my evaluation writing career, and so you were coaching and you were training. You and Ani had a podcast, and I laughed to Ani about this the other day. I was like, y'all totally threw wood on the flame between me and Dre. Yeah, on your podcast, y'all totally lit the fire between me. And he said, yeah, I absolutely did that. So, but but I
He knew
met
he was
you.
doing
I
more than I
met you.
did.
You said what?
He knew he was doing more than I did. I was green.
Knowing Ani now that I know him, at this stage of where he's at, he's hilarious. Ani is absolutely hilarious. He was a little more serious back then, but now it's like he's unreal. But so I met you and you were training. You were training and you were coaching. And you called me one morning, you were like, hey, come to the gym. I got the breakfast club, the breakfast club, the breakfast club. And it was like early in the morning. Where were we? Were we in Lincoln? Where were we?
Yeah, we was at Lincoln High School.
We were at Lincoln, and I walk in the gym, and it's Tyrese Maxey, it's Chris Harris, and your buddy from Missouri that played in the league. What was his name again?
Shaq Harrison.
Shaq Harrison.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the world? And you had them kids going. What was the Breakfast Club to you? What was your training? There's a trainer on every corner now, like churches on every corner. There's a trainer.
For
But
sure.
what was your journey as a skill developer?
Honestly, man, it was a large passion. I shouldn't say it was. It is a large passion of mine. It's the
Yeah,
foundation of everything for me when it comes to basketball, and it's something that I really enjoy. And that is literally like the first step in the process for me with everything when it comes to basketball. When I grew up, my uncle I talked about Maurice King. I call him Uncle Poncho. His
yeah,
son Calvin Wainwright um, is was my coach growing up, and that's my uncle.
yeah,
Uh, he was, his son Ishmael Wainwright played at Baylor. That's my cousin, obviously.
Yeah.
Calvin Wainwright was pivotal for me with loving basketball. He was big on development. He was big on skill development. He was big on just the early process of developing skills. Um,
Yeah.
and he kept us in the gym like crazy, just working on our game, simple stuff, footwork and playing out a triple threat and, just shooting pull up jumpers and being able to finish around the rim and playing one on one. And if a guy makes a shot, you give him the ball the next possession and see if he can make another one. And just simple things that
Yeah.
help you learn how to play the game the right way that are undervalued nowadays, but they were really important for my process of starting a foundation as a basketball player.
Yeah.
So for me, that was all I cared about was being in the gym because I know what it meant for me. I know what it did for me. So when it came to those guys, it was just all about being in the trenches with them and helping them get better. And that was all I cared about, man. Like, I never did it for the money. I never did it for the notoriety. I never did it for, because I want this or that from them. Like that was never a thing for me. And even to this day, it's never been a thing for me, man. Like you go around the gym now, you see so many guys doing things for, having automotives and that's cool. Like everybody got to get paid, you know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
I always stand by everybody, says different things about this dude trying to get this and that. I've never done anything for a player because I wanted something back. Never.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of disheartening. I mean, I know I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 40, but I remember my dad. He I didn't have a skills coach, but I remember being at the court. We did a lot of our work outside. First of all, we weren't inside. We were outside.
Yeah.
At a free basketball court. You know, people talk about gym rentals, gym time. You can go to a free basketball court outside, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
For
But I
sure.
remember him before we did anything, it was triple threat, footwork. The first my early lessons of basketball were footwork, triple threat, stationary shooting,
Yeah.
using the backboard, being a good free throw shooter. And even now at 40 years old, I can still go out there and play basketball and be effective because I know the fundamentals.
Hmm.
And, I'm you're right. It doesn't seem like it's important. Um, and how much of that when you get guys on campus, how much of that do you have to teach, coach, maybe retrain? Like how much of that do you actually have to deal with the newer generation of basketball players?
Oh, you still a ton, a huge amount. I've made comments to certain coaches on our staff or talked to other guys in the business where it's like, man, like you can tell a lot of the freshmen that like never went to a basketball clinic growing up or never went to like never really worked on skills playing the game of basketball. There's kids that rely on their athleticism or they rely on their natural talent. And if you ask them to do a reverse pivot, a jab and a rip through, they would look at you like you speaking Chinese. You know what
Mm,
I mean? Like it's guys that in transition don't know how to finish or have moves one on one to get by and get a shot off the glass. Like it's just small things. You talk to post guys and it's like do a drop step to a jump hook and they can't really do it.
mm,
Um, and you don't, me being 31 years old, I don't get upset with them guys at all. I
right.
just like we gotta get to work because
Yeah.
these basic skills of basketball, these are things you probably should learn in third grade but you don't really know them or have a good amount of repetition with it. So that's our job then. Like let's get
Yeah.
you better at it. Um, and again, kids still appreciate that process of getting better when they
Yeah.
really care about the game and love the game. So you just try to make sure you put your hands on them and help them, so they can get to the point where they succeed at a high level.
Yeah. When it comes to the Breakfast Club, you were an early morning guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Was that something that was always in? I'm an early morning guy, but was that instilled in you? Is that where does the early morning getting up, getting to your work, where does that come from? Where does the Breakfast Club come from?
I've always been a morning dude. Always, like I was the in my house. I was always first up. It was me and my mom and my sister. I was always the one that was up at like 6:30, 7 a.m. And I
Yeah.
go upstairs and start watching hardwood classics or ESPN or
Ooh.
some basketball, something on TV.
Yeah.
And that was just always how it was. So in my adult life, I like early morning more than late night. Like I don't. I don't like. Now I've changed a little bit because I got
Yeah.
I got a kid now.
Yeah.
So, but luckily my daughter's an early riser too as well. So I still get up in the mornings and have short nights. But no, that was just something that I love getting up early in the morning and getting work done because I feel like even now, um, when you get your work done in the morning, it leaves you to be a regular guy at night. When you're a late night guy, you have your whole day fixated on what you're gonna do later on, and I feel
Yeah.
like you don't really have time to kind of structure your day where you get to be like a regular guy. Because I'm a quality of life guy. Like I love basketball. I love being a basketball coach. I love being a basketball guy, but at the same time, I like being a regular guy and doing regular things. And I want time to read, and I want time to listen to my music. I want time to take my daughter to get ice cream. Like I want time to
Yeah.
have to be a basketball guy.
Yeah.
So I try to help guys understand priorities, like be a hooper, but like, yo, get your work done early, then you can be a regular guy later on.
Yeah, no, that's important. I think the quality of life. Basketball, being a basketball junkie is one thing, but you need healthy outlets. You need space away from the court, away from the gym.
Yeah,
And the ability to grow it grows your mind. The ability to grow your mind, grow your spirit, grow your soul, and become a better person and just enjoy life.
I
That's
agree.
an excellent point. And congratulations, by the way. Married, kid, living in Knoxville, like you've come so long, but after the trainer stop, and it's still a part of your journey, but then you found yourself as an assistant coach on the EYBL with RM5, aka Mo Williams. That was Mo Williams' team.
Yeah,
And you were Tim Martin's assistant, and y'all had a loaded team, and I
yeah,
was there, but y'all couldn't win any games.
yeah.
So talk about the EYBL, your journey as a coach, and then you ended up at MoCan,
Mhm,
which is one of the best summer programs in the history of summer basketball. But
mhm.
talk about that journey a little bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, my RM5 was my first opportunity ever to coach, right? So, coaching there was new because the UIBL obviously at the time was, I remember that first year was absolutely loaded. That was,
It
I
was
think,
crazy.
yeah, I think that was the deepest UIBL roster of all time. I mean, you had the Marvin Bagleys and the Mike Porters and the Trey Youngs and the Hamid Diallos and the Billy Prestons and the
DeAndre Ayton.
yeah, DeAndre Ayton, Colin Sexton, Darius Garland. Like it was some special dudes
It
out there.
was loaded. It was loaded.
Yeah, it was different. And with us, we had Billy Preston, we had Zaire Smith, Galen
Hmm.
Alexander, um, shoot, Javon Jackson. I mean, we had a lot. VJ Bailey, who I later got to
Yeah.
coach at Tennessee.
Yeah.
So we had really, really talented roster with a lot of guys that could really play. Um, and we went to EYBL and got drugged, man. We were bad. We were
I
bad.
was sitting on the baseline. I was sitting on the baseline for that first game. And was it Phoenix Family? It was somebody, but it was Marvin Bagley,
It's
Cody
the
Riley, and the little guard that ended up at Kansas,
Remy Martin
Remy Martin.
tore a hole.
And I mean, it was bad.
Yeah,
it was
tore a hole.
it was bad. But how did that help you develop as a coach?
It helped me a ton because I think the best thing to learn while you're in coaching is how hard it is. How much
Mm,
preparation matters, how much you can't just show up and be good, and talent can only take you so far.
yeah,
And that goes for not just players but coaches as well. Like your gift for being able to reach people or being able to speak, like that's not enough. Like your preparation has to be high level. Watching film, reading. I'm big on that as I've gotten older. Is reading a ton.
yeah,
Um, being able to understand what makes guys tick, how to help push guys to new levels, discipline. You know what I mean? So I think that us going out getting our butt kicked up with all the talent we had, it showed me that we weren't just gonna show up and be good just because we had good players. And I think
yeah,
it was good for me and Tim because we were both learning.
yeah,
We were early in our careers. Obviously, Tim has ran with more skill development and pushed that, and he's done an incredible job. And we both were high level skill development guys, but
Yeah.
from a coaching aspect, we were green and we were young and we were still figuring that part out. And I think that I taught us a good lesson,
Mm.
um, just on how to prepare. You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
to hold guys accountable with being as young as we were. So it was for me, like looking back at the entire journey, it was a blessing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you end up, you leave Dallas. So did you actually moved? Because this is kind of the time where I was transitioning out of it. But so
Mm.
did you move back to Kansas City, or were you still in Dallas when you were with Mocan?
No, so I moved to Wichita to coach at Sunrise Christian. Um,
Okay.
and Wichita is about 2 hours, like an hour and 50 minutes from Kansas City, where I grew up, obviously. So, coached at Sunrise. I started there in 17, 18. I
Mm-hmm.
was there from 17, 18, and 18, 19 seasons. And so in the summers, I was just driving back to Kansas City with a couple of the guys that were on our team at Sunrise. They played for Mocan. And obviously, I was going back home. A lot of guys that I knew that I grew up with, coaching a program that, was representing my home city. So it was a really good experience for me.
What kind of program is Mocan?
This is the best in the country, if I'm being
Mm.
honest. We just spoke about preparation and detail, attention to detail, and all those things. Mocan, like, we're one of those programs where like everything is built off practice, repetition. When guys come to play for Mocan on 17, you got a playbook that's about this thick. Um,
Mm.
you got to know every action in it. We got printouts and all the actions written out by name, where you're supposed to go, and everybody has their name on it when you first make the team. Um, you know, when we bring guys in for practice, you practice Friday night, twice on Saturday, once Sunday morning, and everybody goes home.
Yeah.
So by the time the first session rolls around, most of your team, excluding the guys that play like national prep teams that are playing in Geico and stuff like that,
Yeah.
um, you're going to practice at least, I don't know, 17 times before the first session. Um, and then in between like the last session and Peach Jam, you get another like 13. So like again, it was about being prepared,
Yeah.
and being coached, always being one of the better defensive teams in the EYBL, always being one of the better executing teams in the EYBL. So it really helped mold me as a coach for sure.
Did you get a Peach Jam championship while you were there? Did you win?
I did. I
See?
did. 20,
And I'm asking you this, and some of this I know, but I'm asking you this because there's this misconception that these elite teams don't practice. They have players just flying in on the weekends and they're just playing.
yeah,
And, success just happens because you roll out five guys with a number or 4 or 5 stars next to their game. And I think a lot of parents, coaches, and players need to understand that Mocan Elite, and I would agree with you, one of the best, if not the best, grassroots program in the country. Um, take preparation and practice and getting ready seriously. It's not about the videos, it's not about the mixtapes, it's not about that. It's about becoming a better basketball player and a better person. And
right.
then that has translated into multiple Peach Jam championships. And you have one or two.
I got one.
You have one.
I
And
got one.
that's and
The
that and
program has three.
yeah. And you have what? Say that again?
The program has three, but I own the
Yeah.
program.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot to be said about that because I know a lot of that is lost. A lot of it is lost, and there are misconceptions. There are lies being told. There's misinformation being shared that elite players, elite coaches at the grassroots level in the summertime don't prepare. They don't, and that is absolutely not the truth. I had a conversation with Keith Langford at Thanksgiving Hoop Fest, and he talked to me about watching film with the team that he was coaching and the parents being upset with him for watching film. And I'm just like, where in college, at what level? Because I played Division 3. We had film sessions, long, boring film sessions. You know what I'm saying? But the development part of basketball is still happening, and there are still programs that are doing it. So you're at Sunrise. You were an assistant at Sunrise,
Right.
but so you were there for 2 seasons, and then you made the step into Division 1 college basketball. What was your first stop?
My first stop was University of Illinois Chicago, where I actually was just last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at University of Illinois Chicago um, for a year. My first job was with Coach Steve McLean. Um, who was a former assistant at University of Indiana, where they had Victor Oladipo and Yogi Ferrell and Christian Watford. He had a lot of high level players there. He was at Colorado when he recruited Alec Burks. That obviously
Yeah.
was the first like lottery pick that Mocan had.
Yeah.
He recruited him. He was a former Mountain West Coach of the Year when he was at Wyoming back in the day, and he also was a head coach at Hutch Community College. That was in the Jayhawk Conference. So a lot of our roots were similar. Coach was obviously, very, very established in coaching and had a really good resume. So having him be my boss for my first job, he taught me a lot. We had a pretty good team that was picked fourth in the Horizon League. We ended up finishing fourth, made a run in the conference tournament, went to the conference championship game and lost by 9 to
Mm.
Northern Kentucky, and basically, barely missed the NCAA tournament. So having that success in my first year of coaching was big for me.
Yeah.
Understanding the process in which we had a rocky start to the year and then finished off really, really strong. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Assistants with me was Tony Harvey, who was a former head coach at Texas Southern, but was an assistant in Missouri back in the days with Quinn Snyder. So
Yeah.
recruited, coached a lot of really good players. And then one of the other assistants that worked with me was D Brown, that obviously was a Bob Cousy Award winner at
Yeah.
University of Illinois, played in the national championship game. Both of those guys were big influences for me in my first year of coaching, taught me a lot. That year was amazing for me. That was a pretty big part of my foundation as a basketball coach, and as a young man. Like that I learned a lot, man. It helped mold me a ton.
You were still in your 20s when you were doing that.
I was 26.
That's crazy.
Yeah, my first Division One job, I was 26.
Yeah. I,
Yeah,
I can't even imagine at 26.
it's crazy. It's
I,
crazy.
I can't even imagine.
I was
So
fresh, man.
what was give us a lesson. What was one lesson that you could give us from your time at UIC?
Learning what made guys tick.
Hmm.
Learning to understand the why that guys have playing basketball.
Yeah.
Um, Understanding the difference between coaching high major and mid major, where everybody wants to be a pro, but it's a lot likelier at the high major level than the mid major level for everybody to be a pro, right?
Right.
So having to understand why guys want to play basketball, why would they want to get better?
Yeah.
Understanding how to motivate them to want more. Um, Understanding, I think, how to be a 26-year-old and
Yeah.
command the respect of guys that aren't that much younger than me in that space. In
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
learning like how to make that balance of, yeah, you're not their friend, but you're a younger influence that can give them a lot of game, but also having respect from a room of young guys like that. So that was big for me. It taught me a lot. Yeah, those guys probably don't even know. They taught me so much more than I could teach them that year. So much
Yeah.
more. The work that goes into having relationships and being a good recruiter and being a skill development guy, and then preparation for games. I learned how to scout. I learned how to break down film. I learned how to watch film.
Mm.
I learned how to analyze basketball games in a way that I never had to before,
Yeah.
from a coaching aspect. And Mo can't help with that, but it was just different levels of the preparation. It's different when you're, prepping for a team versus prepping for a program. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Prepping for
Mm.
a system. It's just different. Um, so yeah, no, it was a lot for me, but I felt like I had so much to learn, and it all got condensed, and it was received the right way through that year.
So you spent one season at UIC,
Yeah, 1 year.
and then you moved on to Austin P.
I did.
How'd that go?
It was a weird year because at the end of UIC was when the pandemic hit,
Mm-hmm.
so kind of the shutdown happened, and we ended up getting let go that year. Um, it was like 4 days. Another reason why I learned a lot. We made a conference championship game, played in it on Tuesday, and then that following Friday we got fired. So
Whew.
I was like, "This is how this business goes." I'm in the car calling my mom, like, "Mom, we just got fired. Like, I don't know what to do. I gotta go back to Sunrise. Like, I'm not gonna have no money." I didn't know what happened. I'm like, what in the yeah, so that was crazy. We got let go. I ended up getting another job at Austin P where the head coach was Matt Figure, who was a former assistant at K State. So he knew a lot of the MoCan guys, had really good relationships with them. So he hired me at Austin P, and I spent a year there. We were picked preseason number 2 in the league. We're not very good that year. Had a lot of injuries.
Mm,
Weren't super connected, which it was hard to be connected at that time because of all the COVID stuff and the lack of exposure that you could have to each other. So we ended up underperforming that year. But we had a player by the name of Terry Taylor who ended up being the Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year.
yeah,
Played in the NBA for the Indiana Pacers, Chicago Bulls, and now is in the G League right now, playing for I think the Kings G League affiliate.
yeah,
Terry was one of the most. I mean, he was one of the most impactful players I think I've ever been around.
mm.
Obviously, loved coaching him for his last year at college. I love him to death. Still talk to him a lot to this day. He's a Kansas City Chiefs fan like me, so. But I love Terry. He was dominant, man. He was special. Um, but yeah, got the opportunity to coach there and coach a team that has some good players, but we underperformed. But I learned a lot as well in that year.
I just want to take a moment to say you had to say Kansas City Chiefs, didn't you?
I had to. I had to. Got to rub it in as possible, as much as possible, especially to any Cowboy fan I see. I got.
Oh my gosh, we don't even need to talk about it.
I
First
know.
of all, I don't even know how we got a Monday night game tomorrow, but that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother. I've literally stopped watching the games. I've stopped watching.
I
I
make
don't even
people
watch.
feel bad all the time when I talk about the Cowboys because I throw this out every time. I'm young, so I was born in '93, and I'm like, man, the last time I won a championship was the year I was born. People are
Yeah, see.
like,
I almost hit the
I'm like,
almost hit
think
the
about
end
how long
recording
ago
button.
that is.
I almost hit the end recording button. Almost. I almost tapped it on you. I almost ended this episode, right?
I
I
got
can't.
you.
I cannot, man. Gosh, you had to remind me of that. I was 11 years old. I was
Hey,
11.
see what I'm saying?
I'm
See,
40 now. I was 11 and now I'm 40.
I'm 30.
Sad. Sad is an understatement.
A long.
Sad is an understatement.
I had
But
to
this
live
is
a
a
lot of years with the Chiefs being bad though, all through my childhood.
see, and I get that.
I
But the
got
saddest part to me about it is our fans act like we haven't gone that long without winning. Well, they act like we just won. They act like we've won a championship within the last decade, 5 years, and it's been almost 30 years. But either way.
yeah,
So Austin P.
yeah.
And then how did you get to where you are today? University of Tennessee, Rick Barnes. Tomorrow morning, hopefully, we're hoping and we believe that the Volunteers will be #1 in the country. How did you get to the SEC high major basketball at such a young age?
Yeah, man, it was a blessing, honestly, and it came from having real organic relationships. To be honest, man. Um, Obviously, Austin P. The season was finished, and Coach Fig, who I worked for, had took another job at University of Texas Rio Grande Valley.
Mhm.
So, you know, the expectation was for me to go with him.
Right.
Um, I had just gotten married. I just we were pregnant with my daughter, my first kid, and the expectation was that we were going next, to Mexico, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, and so all of a sudden, I started getting all of these calls from high major schools. So it was crazy. It was just happening like super fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I mean, I don't. I'm 28 years old, man. It ain't about to happen that easy. But it's
Right.
cool. They're calling. That means I'm getting close. And I think I had six high major schools reach out, and the first one was University of Tennessee. They
Wow.
lost 2 assistants, and Kim English and Des Oliver. Kim English was a good friend of mine, and as well as Frank Haith, who was
Yeah.
he was the head coach at Tulsa at the time. Frank Haith is one of Coach Barnes' original assistants from his family tree, and has always been an older influence for me. He coached one of my closest friends that I grew up with, that I played with in high school, Mike Dixon at the University of Missouri. And then he coached one of my best friends that I played with in high school, Shaquille Harrison at the University of Tulsa. So we were always known each other, knew of each other.
Yeah.
When I was young and in Dallas, and helping give him information on certain guys, and he come and recruit some guys off of RM5 or wherever I was. So it caused us to have a really good relationship. Um, that was just built off of love, not anything I could do for him or what he could do for me, honestly.
Yeah.
And they, Coach Barnes needed a young African American assistant that he felt like could connect with the guys and that was good on the floor and that was, he felt like was going to be a good coach.
Yeah.
So they gave him my name, and I started speaking to Mike Schwartz, who was the associate head coach at the time. We're on the phone talking back and forth for a few days, and I'm thinking like, okay, this is cool, but probably not going to happen. But at least I'm getting closer. Then they asked me to come to Knoxville. At the time I was in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is about 3 hours away. So hopped in a car, drove down. Um, I put a suit on. I was all serious and spiffed up and ready for my interview. So I meet Coach Barnes, and we don't talk about basketball at all. Not one word about basketball. And I'm kind of tripping out because I'm like, man, how am I gonna get the job? We don't even talk about basketball. Like
Right.
I don't know what am I doing? Like, man, long story short, we go to the gym. VJ Bailey's there, who obviously I coached the RM5. VJ like, Rob. I'm like, V. We go hug each other and we all excited. And then coach, he lays an offer letter down. It's like, that enough for y'all? And I'm like, man, let me hurry up and sign this before he take this back. But I already had the job, and I had no clue. I didn't know, and it was obviously one of the biggest blessings that I've had in my life. It was a great day. That was in April. I think it was like April 4th or something like that, April 6th.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so man, it was a great time for me. It was a great blessing for my journey, um, to my family, for me, the whole nine. So that was when I made the transition to the University of Tennessee, man. I've been here ever since.
What's it like working under a legend like Rick Barnes every day?
It's great, man. It helps with my level of humility, because
Mm.
obviously, like I said, I'm blessed to work with someone that's done it for so long, has done it at a high level, that's been so successful. And I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, man. So I say like that's Big 12 country. You grow up, Kansas is right up the street, University of Missouri, and obviously the leagues and everything has changed now.
Yeah.
But during that time, Texas was in the Big 12. So, like my little cousin Ishmael Enright, I can say it now because he's, pro now playing. Growing up, his dream was to go play for Rick Barnes in Texas.
Mm.
Um, and so me watching him coach and coaching Kevin Durant and TJ Ford and Jacobin Brown and all of these high level dudes, the PJ Tuckers and coach's list of pros is unreal.
Yeah.
And his list of guys that play at Texas that aren't pros is even realer. You know what I mean? So being able to work under him is it's a for me a little bit of a dream come true, and it's kind of something I have to take a step back and really appreciate at times. And coach is fiery like I am. He's competitive, uh, but he teaches me a lot. He lets me work, lets me grow. He's always let me grow, but it's critical at the same time, which really helps me, and that's the only love that I really like.
Yeah.
Uh, so man, it's been a great opportunity and a great blessing for me and my family for sure.
Yeah. No, that's dope. I mean, I've literally watched you from the beginning of the journey to now.
Yeah,
And I still it's crazy. I had the essentials camp and I'm gonna bring it back. This is the first time I'm actually saying that publicly. But I'm
yeah,
gonna bring the essentials camp back. And that second year of the camp, you were one of my coaches. You
yeah.
weren't the camp director. You
No,
were one of the coaches.
right.
And we had Cade Cunningham,
I ran
Mike
the ball handling
Miles.
station.
You said what?
I ran the ball handling station. I remember
See, you know what I'm like
that.
you ran the ball handling station at my camp and I paid you something like $90, $100 for the day.
Yeah,
And now we're talking and you're an assistant coach at the number one team in the country. That's an amazing story.
Mm,
It's an amazing journey, and the people that know you here in Dallas, we are so proud of you. We are proud, and every time, and
appreciate it.
I don't know if you know this or you feel this, but when you're out on the floor and you're coaching on the sideline, we're coaching with you. We are there with you. We
Yeah,
are. I'm telling my wife. I'm watching the games. There's Rod. I probably have told that to her 100. There's Rod. There's Rod. He's right there. There's Rod. I've told her that 100 times, but basketball is just a beautiful game, and it provides us opportunities that I don't think we would other receive if we didn't fall in love with this game and keep the main thing the main thing.
1,000%.
The one thing in your story that I'm not hearing are a bunch of distractions and a bunch of foolishness. And I'm sure that's why it's happened for you as quickly as it has. Not to say you haven't had your challenges, not to say you haven't had your obstacles, but things have happened for you because you've kept the goal and the focus, the goal and the focus. How can you speak to, before you got to go? I know you got to go get ready for practice today,
So,
but talk to parents of prospective student athletes, not just at your level, because you've played at several different levels, but talk to aspiring college basketball players and give them something that would help them in their journey.
yeah, man, I think that they have to understand that you have to really love this game and you got to put in the time and the preparation and understand that results are driven by preparation. They
Hmm.
are like anything that's worth obtaining, you got to work at it. And you can't expect things to happen for you if you know that you haven't worked hard enough. You got to be real with yourself. You have to embrace everything that's hard about what you want. So everything that's hard about this game, you got to embrace it. Things not going your way. Are you fighting through it or are you running from it? Because if you run from it one time, you're gonna continue to run and run and run until you finally face it and fight. So I think that when we go and we're watching these kids, I think what parents don't understand is that I've stopped recruiting a lot of kids from talking to their parents. A lot. Where I'm just like, I'm not gonna bring up his name, but it was a kid in Texas that I was recruiting, and I got to talk to his mom for about 30 minutes and talk to her about her son, and I stopped recruiting him because my thing was like her son needed to mature. He was a good player, but he had a lot that he had to get better with and grow with. And my comment was, I told our staff, I said, I don't want to take him because when something doesn't go right, and that's gonna happen, something's gonna go wrong,
Yeah.
and he's gonna run, and nobody's gonna be able to give him two hands in his chest and say, turn around and go back. They just gonna let him keep running. So I'm like, it's no
Mm,
doing it. Like they're
wow.
not hold him accountable. So how are we gonna hold him accountable if his own
Yeah.
people? And it made us, start recruiting a kid, and that kid is kind of taking a tumble and a fall from grace, which obviously you never want to see from a kid. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
parents don't understand how much of the foundation is important to these guys, man, and their mentality when it comes to the game.
You said a mouthful. Because obviously, from my position as scout, writer, evaluator, whatever you want to call it, I always, parents are always on my phone. They're always on my social media, and they always want the good. They always, even when there's bad, they want me to make it look good.
Right.
And there's so much that young men, and the way that I was raised in basketball is that the end goal was a scholarship.
For sure. Yeah.
But the emphasis was on becoming a better teammate, a better person, sportsmanship, and growing up as a young man. My high school, the last school that I went to, Northwest Christian in Miami, Anthony Pujol was the head coach. He's now the head coach at Northern Alabama. And I can credit him more than anyone on developing me as a man and teaching me the lessons of manhood in the short amount of time that he had me. He's given me so many deposits that have lasted me, and I'm sure they will continue to last me. And I'm passing them on to my son. And it's unfortunate to hear a story like that, but I completely get it because I see it all the time. The
Right.
lack of accountability within within a home that leads to a player making terrible decisions that years down the road they'll probably look back and say, but I guess the hope is that, they will learn. They will. Hopefully they will. That they will learn those lessons. But man, your story is amazing. Um, the journey is crazy. We're watching. You know, I work with all these different schools, so I have to be a silent fan.
I know, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate
But I am 100% a fan of Tennessee basketball, a fan of you. Wherever you go, we're a fan of you. And I definitely think you're a head coach one day, man. You got head coach written all over you. You're going to be a head coach one day.
I,
And we appreciate you being on the show. We hope you guys have a great day at practice, and love to the family, to the wife, to the little one. And we just pray for your success, man. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. I think the biggest thing I can say for like all young coaches and young players, man, just don't cheat the process and build organic relationships. I take pride in that more than anything. And I tell guys all the time, I think the biggest reason why I was able to receive blessings and get, climb the trees faster than I was able to was because all of my relationships were not transactional and they were built off of me just wanting to do the right thing, be a good person, and whatever I got in return was whatever I got. I
Right.
didn't have expectations of what I was supposed to get. And I try to remain that way right now. Um, I don't have my hands out all the time. It's a little bit easier now than it was before, obviously, but because I was doing that when I didn't have anything, now when I do have some things, it's a lot easier. So,
Yeah.
you know, anybody in Dallas, young player development guys, coaches, whatever the case, man, like do whatever you do out of love and wanting to help the kids.
Yeah.
Don't always expect something back, man. Like, because if you don't expect anything back, God usually is going to, supply you with whatever you need.
Yeah.
Because everything has to be based off of organic love. Love, it's shout out to Amir Abdul Rahim, rest in peace. But
Yeah. Yeah.
he always spoke about love wins, and I truly believe it, man. So I think if we all kind of as a community kind of lead with that is our vision, I think good things will come from it.
How can people follow you, follow, Coach Rod and the University of Tennessee?
Yeah, you follow me on Twitter at Coach Rod underscore UT. It's cited on the screen. Then on Instagram, it call me Coach Rod. Um, please follow the Vols. I think we got to be the hottest university in the country right now.
You are. You are.
Women's basketball team is killing it. We got a brand new head coach, Coach Kim Caldwell. She's amazing. They just won a big game against Iowa last night. Should be in the rankings next week. Got our men's basketball program that hopefully gets a little bump in the rankings next week. Our football team, I got to check, but I'm pretty sure they just made the CFP. Um, and our baseball team just won a national championship, and our softball team just came off of making back-to-back Women's World Series. It's popping over here, man. It really is. I hate it. Like I just ran all that off, and it's all real. So
Yeah.
I just promoted the school, but we got an amazing university right now, so I had to show love.
Yeah, man. Well, you have a great day at practice, man. I hope you guys get a lot of work done, and I know I'll be seeing you out there somewhere.
No doubt. Playing against Miami at Madison Square Garden on Tuesday, so everybody
Oh
tune.
yeah, we tuned in. We are tuned in.
My man, my man.
Cool. Well, have a good one.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.